When her husband vanished without a trace, everyone told Hania Fareed to move on. But 3 years later, a single message hidden in his old phone revealed the unthinkable. He hadn't abandoned her. He had been erased from her life. Now, armed with evidence sharp enough to ruin an empire, Hania steps back into the world that destroyed her, ready to expose every lie. But the closer she gets to justice, the more dangerous the truth becomes, because the people who stole her future will do anything to stop her from reclaiming it. The wind bit at my cheeks as I stood at the crowded bus station. My son balanced on my hip, his little hands tucked inside my scarf to stay warm. The evening air carried the smell of roasted peanuts, exhaust fumes, and the faint bitterness of rain yet to fall. I tightened my grip around him, humming softly to keep him calm, even though my own pulse was unsteady. That was when a sleek black car rolled up in front of me, silent, expensive, and completely out of place in the chaos of buses honking and people yelling. The tinted windows slid down slowly, as if unveiling a secret rather than a face. Saira Rahmani, my sister-in-law, stared at me with eyes too glossy for the calmness she tried to fake. "Get in," she said. I need to tell you something important." Her voice was gentle, but her hands on the steering wheel trembled. And for someone like Saira, who always spoke like she was reciting lines from a script and always moved like the world was watching, trembling meant something catastrophic. I didn't argue. Not after what her family had done. Not with my son's tired head resting against my shoulder. And not with the way she said important, as if something inside her was cracking open and spilling out whether she wanted it to or not. I slid into the back seat, shutting the door with a thick, final click. The sound reminded me of all the doors they had closed in my face. My son curled against my chest. I kissed his hair and braced myself. I had no idea that my revenge, 3 years in the making, was seconds from blooming. For the longest time, I believed love made people brave. Now I know better. Love made you blind first, brave later. When I married Rayyan Idris, I believed every quiet promise in his eyes. He was gentle, steady, the kind of man who would place my hand over his heartbeat in the middle of an argument and whisper, "Feel that? That's mine. And it's yours too." His family, however, treated me like a permanent guest who overstayed her welcome. They didn't yell, didn't insult. No, their cruelty was polished, refined, wrapped in politeness sharp enough to cut skin. But Rayyan made up for it. He always did. At least in the beginning. Then he vanished. 3 years. No calls. No messages. No explanations. A ghost wearing my husband's name. His family didn't waste a week before pushing me out of that house. They said I brought him misfortune. They said I pushed him away. They said keeping his unborn child was a complication. I took their accusations with a cold face and a fire burning inside me. Not once did I let them see how deeply their words stabbed. Because even then, beneath the wounds, beneath the humiliation, there was a whisper in my gut. They are lying. They know something. It started with small things, whispers that died the moment I entered a room. Saira avoiding my eyes. His mother prayed loudly, as though trying to wash guilt from between her fingers. Footsteps stopping outside my bedroom door at night. Then one afternoon, while digging through the dusty storage box they shoved at me when they kicked me out, I found one of Rayyan's old phones. It was dead. Forgotten. But the SIM card was still inside. I charged it. I powered it on. There was only one message stored in the entire device. One message sent 3 years ago. From a number I didn't recognize. "He's gone. Do not contact us again. You got what you wanted." I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. And then I laughed. A quiet, sharp laugh that sliced my throat on the way out. They hadn't lost him. They drove him away. They forged my silence. They destroyed my home. They lied to him, lied to me, lied to themselves. I didn't rage. I didn't confront. I didn't beg. Instead, I became deliberate, quiet, patient. I collected every insult, every torn document, every bank slip they tried to hide, every careless slip in conversation, every suspicious whisper. I traced the number that sent the message. not to a stranger. To Zamir, Cyrus' husband. The family's beloved golden man. The one who smiled too easily and hid secrets behind polished charm. Interesting. I gathered everything into a digital folder organized so neatly it could slice through glass. Then I waited. Some revenge is best served cold. Mine required absolute zero. First, I contacted a lawyer, quietly, efficiently. Second, I traced Rayyan's old employment records one by one. Third, I found out where he had gone and why. Fourth, I contacted him. Not for closure.
For truth.
He told me everything. They had told him I had filed a case against him. They had forged my signature. They had told him I wanted to move on. They had told him his child wasn't his concern. They had told him I refused contact. The lies weren't threads, they were chains. We built a case together. Not for reunion. Not for reconciliation. Not for tenderness. For justice.
Fraud.
Forgery. Illegal eviction. Financial manipulation. Emotional abuse. Everything they stitched around my neck was now a noose around theirs. And tonight was unraveling. Syra gripped her steering wheel harder. Her voice cracked before she even spoke. I know Rayyan contacted you, she whispered. I know everything. He found out. He's coming tomorrow with lawyers. The confession hung in the air like smoke.
My pulse didn't change.
My breathing didn't shift. I had been waiting for this moment far too long to tremble. You forged my signature, I said quietly. You destroyed my home. A visible shiver ran through her. And now you're afraid, I continued, because the law is coming. Her breath came out uneven. Mom will go to jail. Zamir will too. Please, please stop this. Your husband should have thought about that before pretending to be me. She choked on a sob. Hania, we'll lose everything. That, I said softly, is the point. I opened the door. Cold air rushed in. My son tightened his grip around my neck. Syra reached for my arm.
Please.
Tell Rayyan you forgive us. I turned my head slowly, meeting her tearful, ruined gaze. I don't forgive betrayal, I whispered. I will correct it. Her knees buckled as I stepped out. She collapsed against the seat, sobbing into her manicured hands, the same hands that had once signed my eviction papers. The station lights flickered overhead. People rushed past us, carrying bags heavier than their regrets. I walked toward the bus, my son's tiny hand wrapped around my scarf. Something inside me, something that had been tangled in pain, denial, and hope, finally loosened. Tomorrow was not the end. It was the beginning. Rayyan would face them. They would face the law. And I would face a life built on my own terms, not theirs. Mama, my son whispered, tugging my sleeve. Where are we going? I smiled softly. Somewhere better, I said. The bus's engine rumbled beneath my feet as we climbed aboard. I found a window seat and settled in, my son curled up beside me, big brown eyes blinking sleepily. Rain began tapping against the glass, a rhythmic reminder that storms sometimes cleared paths rather than destroying them. I had a long night ahead, and a longer tomorrow. I had barely closed my eyes when my phone vibrated. A message. Unknown number. Hania, it's me. I'm landing at 9 a.m. Don't go anywhere. We finished this together.
Rayyan.
My chest tightened, not with longing, not with anger, but with something far more complicated. I typed back a single sentence. I'll be there. I owed him that much. I owed myself even more. By morning, the city courthouse was buzzing like a disturbed hive. Reporters gathered at the steps, sensing the scandal. The Idris family had a reputation, wealth, businesses, charity events, an image as polished as marble. Today, that marble was about to crack. Rayyan stood waiting outside, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense, a man whose world had been dismantled piece by piece. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, the years between us folded into nothing. Hania. Rayyan. Neither of us moved closer. Neither of us smiled. But neither of us looked away. He knelt to meet his son. Our son, his expression caving with emotion. You look just like your mother, he whispered. Strong. I blinked hard, refusing to let the emotion softening his voice weaken my resolve. We have work to do, I said. He nodded. Inside, the hearing unfolded with brutal clarity. Evidence. Documents. Witness statements. Forgery analysis. Financial trail. Phone records connecting Zamir directly to the fraudulent message. Audio clips Rayyan had recorded during his last conversation with his mother. Screenshots of every lie they told. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of truth slicing through the Idris family's empire. When the judge announced formal charges against them, Syra broke down completely. Zamir's face was drained of color. Rayyan's mother stared at me with pure, shattered disbelief. But I felt nothing. No victory. No joy. Just a quiet release. After the verdict, Rayyan approached me outside the courthouse steps. I didn't know, he said softly. If I had. You didn't ask. I cut in. You believed them over me. He swallowed hard. You're right. The honesty in his voice shook something inside me, not enough to rebuild, but enough to acknowledge. This wasn't about revenge, I said. This was about correction. He nodded. I want to make things right.
With you.
With our son. I'm not asking for forgiveness, only a chance to prove myself. I looked at my son holding his hand. I looked at the man who was once my safe place, and then my void. And I made my decision. You'll be part of his life, I said.
But mine?
That depends on what you do next, not what you say now. Rayyan nodded slowly, accepting without argument. Fair. He stepped back, giving me space, dignity, and something he had never given me before. My son tugged my scarf again. Mama, are we still going somewhere better? I lifted him into my arms. Yes, I whispered. We're already on our way. As we walked away from the courthouse, I felt the world shift. Not in a dramatic burst. Not in triumph. But in a quiet, steady realignment, like a broken bone finally set straight. The storm behind me had passed. The horizon ahead was wide open. And for the first time in years, I was free.